Hi, this is Kevin Neal from Upscale Audio, and today we're going to talk about the AudioQuest Niagara 3000. This is a new power conditioner from AudioQuest, and I bought one with my own jack, and I'm so excited about it. So AudioQuest was kind enough to have Garth Powell, the engineer from AudioQuest, come out and talk to us today.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Garth. Now, before I turn it over to him, I got to tell you guys a little story, okay? Some of you know I just moved to my new house. I moved to my new home with my loving wife, Miss Laura, also known as She Who Must Be Obeyed. And she wanted to put the bed together for the bedroom. And I said, no, got to get our priorities straight. I need to have a stereo system in the man cave, which is the garage. She goes, what? I said, we don't need a bed. We need the stereo system in the garage. And I was talking to Isaac, and he goes, what are you going to do for power? I said, oh, I'm just going to use the Niagara 1000. I mean, that thing is just so badass. And you know, he goes, why don't you use the 3000? I go, what's a 3000? This is serial number 1 of the Niagara 3000. It is a $3,000 power conditioner. And I'm here to tell you something. This is going to be the biggest selling power conditioner in the history of Upscale Audio. They brought this to me, and I was shocked how good it sounds. And we're going to break it down for you in just a moment, but I got to say something. I left my house, and my wife, who was very annoyed, came down to the store. We plugged this thing in, because this is serial number 1, right? And we compared it to a power regenerator that runs around $2,500, and it wasn't even close. I said, well, go get the $5,000 one. So we plugged it in, and we plugged in a nice power amp and some other stuff. And again, it wasn't even close. And I'm so shocked that they're able to do this for this amount of money. So I'm going to turn this over to Garth, but I want to show something to you. Outside of the fact that this thing does not limit dynamics, it's the way that it drops the noise floor. I've got my noise analyzer plugged into it right now, and it's reading 0. 0. And if I pull it out and plug it into the same outlet, it reads max. That's the crap that is in your electrical line right now. That's not what you want. You want something that is going to make everything quiet. And that's what this will do, but it doesn't do that at the expense of dynamics. And Garth is here. He was kind enough to come out and tell us what's inside and tell us how he made this happen. So go ahead, Garth.
Kevin, thanks so much. The whole thing with power is there's so many different technologies that you could use. You could regenerate the AC waveform. You could isolate it with a transformer. You could reclock it. You could deal with a ground box. There is so many things you could do. And you know what? I have my opinions as an engineer, but I'm somewhat agnostic. I'll do whatever works. The thing with power is there's 2 things you gotta always remember. Fundamentally, we live in a day and age where there's so much radio frequency information, and it's so much higher in frequency and so much more pervasive than it's ever been before. Think about cell towers, think about Wi-Fi, and so forth. You've got to limit the noise. There's over 23 octaves you're gonna have to deal with. You're gonna have to get rid of all of it, not some of it, all of it, and you're gonna have to do it evenly, consistently, what an engineer calls linearly. Because if you don't do that, you have to understand that this noise is creating a veil of your delicate signals in your audio system. It's doing this. I don't want this. I want this. But I can't at 1 octave unveil this much, and a 1/4 octave from there unveil this much, and a 1/2 octave from there unveil this much. No, 23 octaves, this. That's hard to do, but that's the pinnacle, and that's the absolute thing that I strive for in everything that I do with Niagara. The other thing is that if you have a power amplifier, and if we're listening to a speaker, we better. Well, the thing about those is that compared to anything else in audio, they're unique. Their power supplies are variable current, not fixed current. And what happens is, even with the best ones, they'll have mighty power supplies, but that power supply is working as a direct current. If we don't have something to deal with what it's going to need an alternating current, if we can't buffer it properly, if we can't give it the current it needs on demand, if we don't have a reservoir for it, it's going to limp along. It'll never work at 100% efficiency. It'll be slower, less dynamic, more current compressed. The mistake that a lot of boxes like this have had in the past is they've made that problem worse. They've made a bad situation worse. What we've done with transient power correction is up to 25 milliseconds. I have a circuit that can actually give that power supply of the power amplifier the current it needs, bam, on demand.
Well, and so that brings us up to the pipe bomb here. And what's really cool about this is I'm going to be in my big gun system upstairs. I'm going to be using the Niagara 5000 and the 7000. And I've got direct 20 amp lines that I'm having wired into that room. In fact, I'm having my amplifiers in the big system. They draw 8 amps continuous each. They are 200 watt class A amps. They're gigantic things, right? And I know that with the larger Niagaras, they can supply what? Up to 90 amps peak current on a 20 amp line. But in a 15 amp line, they'll supply 45 amps. Correct?
No.
No?
No, not true. Because this works very much like your power supply in your power amplifier. You're essentially converting energy. So the thing is that you've got a service that's being supplied from your utility of anywhere in most homes or businesses from 100 amps up to 400 amps. So the fact of the matter is that the circuit breaker in your electrical panel is made to shut off when the average or root mean squared is exceeded. But that has nothing to do with the fast peak that I need.
The point I'm trying to make is this, that for the average customer, and why this is so good and so ingenious, is that most folks have a 15 amp line. And they sometimes dream about putting in a 20 amp line, and they want to go to all the expense, and it is a pain in the ass to do it.
Right.
And if they use one of these with the pipe bomb built in, they can achieve that kind of a result.
Exactly. Would it be better with 20 amps? Well, yes, because the delivery to this device would be that much more lower impedance. But you are still going to get 98, 99% of the benefit because this is made to work quickly, which is what your amplifier needs. The power supply in that amplifier is going to be fine with sustained tones. If we could promise to only ever listen to pipe organ music, we don't need this.
Right.
But for real music, we do, because we're going to have transients. I'm a professional drummer and percussionist. It's all about the transient.
Well, and that's the point. Power generators are terrific, especially for Class A design products, because Class A, by definition, means that the current demands don't really change. So preamps are fine for that, phonostages are fine for that, but plug an amp in and everything falls apart. Now this one's going to give all of those components that quieting, but it's not going to restrict the dynamics when you plug in your tube amp or your solid state amp.
No, we're going to make it better.
Exactly right, exactly right. So you want to break down what's in here so we can share with the audience what each part is about?
Well, one of the things that's quite unique, but we have a patent on this, is the ground noise dissipation. One of the fallacies that people, or it's not really a fallacy, people just don't really understand this, is that AC ground is required by law in most countries because it is a redundancy along with neutral to make sure that you have extra protection so that your house doesn't burn down if there's ever a short. But it also has another advantage, is that it's a potential means of taking a lot of induced radio frequency noise and bringing it back to Earth. Thus, these days, there's a lot of ground boxes and so forth. The first ground box that was ever made was made in Scandinavia. Why? Because in Scandinavia, most homes don't have electrical ground. They needed it. But on the other hand, the problem with a box is that no matter what technology you use, it's not equivalent to Mother Earth. But if you can work with Mother Earth and you can have a linear filter, this is very, very important, because what you have to understand is that ground does not go to the power supply, which is at least going to mitigate some of the noise. No, if you have a 3-prong AC cord going to your preamplifier, to your DAC, that ground is going to make a beeline to the ground return of all your circuits. It's a direct infusion of noise. We've got to get rid of as much of that noise as we can. We've got to dissipate the rest of it back to Earth. This is what we do.
And that's why there's 3 of them here. Is that sharing the job, I guess?
Yes, as much isolation as I can do. As you move up the line, even more.
Okay, got it. And I noticed that we have a point-to-point wiring. I mean, these are nice, beefy wires going to each outlet, right? It's very funny because they called this the Niagara 3000. I call it the Niagara 4500 because the Niagara 5000, which is $5,000 now, I think a lot of people would love to own one of those, but maybe they can't afford it. And it's like, for $3,000, this is going to serve most people really, really well because it's got so much of what that one has. The 5000 has the Edison AC outlets, right, which are nicer than these, but these are really, really nice outlets, and it's still really beefy wiring. I mean, it gives you so much of what you get in the 5000.
Yeah, in fact, it's the same wiring that you'll see in the 7000, and it's all directional. All, like every single one of these rolls are directionally trained, and marked and listened to by me.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's unbelievable. Now, what about all the parts on this main board here?
Well, there's a number of different parts of PIN. This is part of the Linearize Filter, also the non-sacrificial surge suppression. And even every one of these inductors, all those wires, I work with we're in Irvine, California. I work with a manufacturer that is only a handful of miles away in Orange, California. I could get these made any place in the world. I refuse to do so because all of these wires also directionally controlled. I have to have them close to me so that I can listen.
Wow.
And then we ship these, in massive containers off to the place that stuffs the boards.
Wow.
These capacitors are not only proprietary, made to our specifications in Japan, but they're also formed or electrically charged at maximum potential through machines that we get from an aerospace company that cost us, oh gosh, I think, Bill Lowe, our founder, spent like over 50 grand on these machines. They look like apartment refrigerators and so forth. We have them in our electrical room. But the whole idea is that this is the same technique that was originally developed for the military JAN standard that was developed for the Apollo program by JPL and NASA.
Wow, wow, unbelievable, unbelievable. Well, now on the back here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fully filtered outlets, and then you have 2 high current outlets to plug in your power amp and your sub, or your monoblock amps, or whatever it is you need. And then you can actually switch the pipe bomb part of the power conditioner in and out. And that's one of the most thrilling things, is to be able to listen to that. Now, I've got to say one more thing. If this does not come with a power cord, and so if you have a good power cord now and you're kind of short on cash, I got that, go ahead and use it. But if they do buy an aftermarket cord, they should use an AudioQuest power cord. Is that correct?
Yeah, and not because there aren't other manufacturers that make incredible AC cords. That is never my issue. And again, I like to be fair to that competition we have. I salute them all. The problem is that for the patented ground noise dissipation, which you've paid roughly 1/4 to 1/3 of the ticket price for, the thing is that every one of these wires are directionally controlled. Well, so are cables. And this entire technology relies on that. You have to understand that the RF noise that is induced into signals and in everything else that can cause so much masking damage, if it's coming from Wi-Fi, if it's coming from a cellular tower, you're talking about a sine wave that's so small, I could fit it on the edge of a business card and have ample room left over. So you're talking about a situation where if we've got a, 3 meters or 6 meters of an AC cable, that might as well be a mile to that kind of noise, like waveform. So it's imperative that that cord have this noise dissipation, have this directionality, so that I can take whatever noise is left over and drain it away. I don't want it getting back into your component.
That's what I want to say here. I mean, I've said it over and over. I don't believe in voodoo. I saw this other company that wanted me to sell their conditioners. I'm not going to say who it is, but I go, well, how does it work? Well, it's a proprietary, and I go, well, I can't open the box. Why can't I open the box? Well, because this is a business that's filled with more former nuclear submarine engineers than any other business. And I shudder to say I call bullshit on that. If you can't tell me how it works, I'm not interested. That's why I like to take things apart for you folks. I think you should get something for your money. I want to thank Garth for coming out and talking about this product. I love AudioQuest so much. They're just such a bitching company. And go to our website, put it in your shopping cart. If you buy one, you don't like it, you can send it back within 60 days. We'll give you every penny of your money back and thank you for buying it in the first place. Talk to my wonderful salespeople. They're all very well educated. My store manager, Ash, he's an electrical engineer. I've got a couple of recording engineers, people that just know what they're talking about, and none of them are on commission. So they're not going to try to sell you something that they don't believe in. They're not getting paid to do that, because I just hate that vibe, and I don't want it happening at Upscale Audio. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Garth.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.